Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. I'm Josh Strife Hayes, and this is a super simple beginner's guide to the tabletop wargame Warhammer 40k. This video series is aimed at complete beginners and will explain everything you need to start the hobby, from the armies themselves to modelling and painting, and finally, playing the actual game. In this video, we'll be looking at the modelling and painting side of the hobby. Many Warhammer 40k fans don't play the actual game. They're perfectly happy just building and then painting the fantastic miniatures. This way you can buy whatever model catches your eye and paint whatever colour scheme you like the look of. But if you've never built or painted anything so small before, it can be intimidating to start. So let's go through the modelling and painting aspect of the hobby step by step. In the last video, we looked at how many different factions there were in the 40k universe. Once you've found one you like the look of, you will need some models. But walking into a Warhammer store can be confusing. What do you need? Do you need troops or tanks? Should you buy scenery? How much paint is needed? Okay, let's make it super simple. The majority of popular armies have a Start Collecting box. These are pre-built selections of models and contain everything you'll need to begin collecting a force. They'll have one or two powerful characters, some larger support vehicles or creatures, and then some rank and file troops. So let's begin with one of these boxes. The majority of Warhammer models are plastic and come on these plastic frames called SPRUES. You'll need some basic clippers to clip the model free, then some plastic glue to stick it together. Side note, when clipping, place the flat part of the clipper blade against the model. This will guarantee a nice smooth finish on the model when it's clipped off. If you're buying a more advanced model, it might be made of metal instead. In this case, you'll need superglue. Clippers, plastic glue and superglue are all available at almost any high street modelling shop. Once you've got all your bits, you can glue them together. Every set will contain a diagram of how you're meant to glue it and the optimal order to build it in. This is where the first major problem for many people happens. If you have multiple choices while building, such as various guns to equip or armour to put on, do you have to choose the exact weapon you're actually going to use? This is a very popular question, and the simple answer is no. In Warhammer 40k, there's a famous acronym, WYSIWYG. This stands for What You See is What You Get, and means the model will be equipped with exactly what they're physically built with. For example, I'm in the middle of building this Deathwatch Space Marine, and I've equipped him with a Deathwatch frag cannon. If I was playing a WYSIWYG game, he would have to have a frag cannon on him. But if you're playing a friendly game, you don't have to follow the WYSIWYG rule. You can have any model represent any build of equipment and weapons that you like. Remember, Warhammer 40k is first and foremost a fun game, and if I have a talk with my opponent before and say, hey, this model's holding a frag cannon, but for this game, I'm going to run him as if he's using a heavy flamer instead, people generally don't have a problem with that. As long as you remember what items and weapons your models are equipped with, you can run them as whatever you like. Building the model to physically have what you're going to run is recommended, but it's not actually essential. So don't worry too much when building. You're not committing to this equipment decision forever. Once you've clipped your models off the sprue and decided on what equipment you're going to give them, you'll glue it together. Plastic glue works by melting the plastic and allowing it to rebind itself, so it's a permanent and strong solution. Superglue works by reacting with the moisture in the air to form a solid bond, so works well on metal or smaller, more fiddly bits. Side note, don't throw away your old sprues. Clip them into small bricks and then use them to build scenery, like demolished walls. Once it's glued, a Space Marine should look something like this. You can customize many parts of all the Warhammer models, from the heads of a human to the alien carapace of the Tyrannid. make sure your models look unique and you're happy with them. As great as the models look once they're glued, we don't want to field a force of grey plastic, so now it's time to paint them. Painting. Painting Warhammer models can be really relaxing and enjoyable, and there are hundreds of fantastic YouTube tutorials already out there. I can't hold a brush to the best of them, but this is a beginner's guide, so let's keep it super simple and look at a few useful and adaptable techniques. You can paint models with any paint you like, however, traditional acrylic paint is so thick it will simply clog up the details on the model. The reason model paint is so expensive is because it is pigment dense, allowing you to thin it down with water and not lose any of the vivid colours. You can pick up a start painting set at any Warhammer store. This will give you all the colours you need to make a good start on any army. First, undercoat. A great way to start a paint job is with an undercoat. This is a thin single layer of colour all over the whole model. You can undercoat by hand or through spray paint. The point of an undercoat is to provide a nice smooth surface for the other layers of paint to stick to, and to hide any imperfections or parts of the model you can't actually specifically paint. By undercoating this marine in black, any parts I don't paint will simply look like they're in shadow. Then base coat, or layer. Once undercoated, choose the colour scheme and paint the majority of your model in that colour. If you're going for Blood Angels, this will be red. The Ultramarines are blue. The Salamanders are green. If you apply the paint in one thick layer, then you'll likely paint out the detail of the model. So thin your paint down with some water and apply multiple thin coats instead, letting each coat dry before applying the next. Now, I want to make my marine look like dull metal, so I'm going to use a technique called dry brushing. This is where I take an old brush, put a small amount of paint on, then wipe most of it off, leaving the bristles almost dry. Then I'll quickly drag the bristles over the model. This catches the edges and raised areas and gives a much more dull colour. The black undercoat allows my silver dry brush to look like old iron. The next step is to apply a wash. Once the layer, in this case a dry brush metal, is dry, I need to apply the wash. Now this is where the magic truly happens. No matter what colour scheme you have picked, a wash will make your model look fantastic. A wash is a very thin ink brushed over the model which will naturally pool in the recesses and give some real depth to the details, the joints of the armour, the inlay of any writing. Washes are what bring your model up to a higher end tabletop standard. The model with the shield has been washed with Nuln oil, a black wash that flows into the recesses of the power armour. If you're painting a biological model, such as a Tyrannid, you may want to wash with a pink or an orange to give it that real organic look. And finally, highlights. Once you've undercoated, base and layer coated, and then washed, it's time to pick out some highlights. These are any parts of the model you want to stand out or be brighter, any raised edge bits you want to give a specific shine to. Simply take a small thin brush and go around picking out the details, red for any lenses, silver for the edges of armour, or gold for any details you want to stand out a little. Because we're painting on top of the wash, the highlights you do will be a little bit brighter than the rest of the model. And that's it. Base coat, layer of colour, wash, and then highlight. Take your time and go slow. And don't worry too much if you make a mistake. Every model you paint will be an improvement on the last. You can add some colour to the bases if you like, or do what I've done and just paint them grey. And that's the majority of the modelling and painting side. Build how you like and paint how you like. Once you're more advanced, you'll build to WYSIWYG standards and be painting like a pro. But for now, just enjoy putting your models together and making them look awesome. Thank you very much for watching. In the next video, we'll start looking at what you need to play the game and win your first battle, as well as exploring the datasheet of a model, showing you exactly what it can do and how well it can do it. If you have any comments or feedback, then drop a comment below or come join me on Discord or Twitch. Links to both of these are in the description below. Thank you for your time, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video.